Direct News TV. December 24, 2023. Israel-Hamas War Live, Christmas Eve massacre at Maghazi kills 70. At least 70 Palestinians have been killed in an air attack on the Maghazi refugee camp, which a Palestinian Health Ministry spokesperson describes as a massacre. Christians in Bethlehem as well as Pope Francis have renewed calls for peace in Christmas messages. Israeli raids across occupied West Bank, including Bethlehem. We are following several raids across the occupied West Bank, in Jenin, in the Jenin refugee camp, in the Balata refugee camp, in Nablus, Tubas, in Bethlehem and in Qalqilia, just to name a few. In Jenin, there are sounds of explosions and heavy exchanges of fire between Palestinian resistance fighters and the Israeli occupation forces. This is just an intensification of the raids that have been ongoing for nearly 2 years across the occupied West Bank, but they have intensified since October 7. There have been several thousand arrests and at least 303 Palestinians killed in the occupied West Bank by either the Israeli military or armed Israeli settlers. Inside Nasser Hospital after Israel bombards southern Gaza, several Palestinians, many of them children, women and the elderly, were reported killed or injured across southern Gaza after non-stop Israeli bombardments. Many of those casualties were taken to Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis. Several areas of the Gaza Strip, including the Al-Maghazi and Burej refugee camps in the central area, have seen multiple deaths as Israel launched a series of Christmas Eve attacks that went on throughout the night. Ireland's Varadkar opposed to boycott of Eurovision over Israel's participation. Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar has said he does not support boycotting the Eurovision Song Contest over Israel's participation in the event. Varadkar said that he viewed skipping events such as the annual song competition as biting off your nose to spite your face and not the right way to go. Varadkar also said that a boycott would risk ostracizing liberal Israelis who do not necessarily support their government and make it harder for them to make the case for peace, to make the case for human rights within Israel. Varadkar made his comments on Christmas Eve after Ireland's national broadcaster RTE received hundreds of emails calling for a boycott of the competition scheduled to take place in Malmö, Sweden, in May next year. Russia was expelled from the Eurovision contest last year after the organizer, the European Broadcasting Union, which includes RTE and other broadcasters, decided the country's inclusion would bring the competition into disrepute in light of Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. Ireland, which in 1980 became the first EU country to call for a Palestinian state, has long been known for having a more pro-Palestinian outlook than other Western nations, with many Irish people seeing parallels between the Palestinian cause and their struggle for independence from Britain. Varadkar previously expressed concern that Israel's bombardment of Gaza amounted to collective punishment and something more approaching revenge. Red Sea attacks, Egypt the big loser in transit fees, analyst says. David Des-Roches, from the National Defense University in Washington, D.C., says a U.S.-led maritime coalition will eventually help stabilize Red Sea shipping despite recent Houthi attacks. By having an organized system of naval escorts, commercial carriers will be able to travel the Suez Canal, link up with the coalition, and then sail through the Bab el-Mandeb under international protection, Des-Roches told Al Jazeera. I expect it to take some time before a level of confidence is established. Bear in mind, these are unarmed commercial ships that are being attacked with weapons of war in time of peace. That is a war crime. They're flagged by nations that have no connection with the Gaza conflict at all. The big loser here is Egypt. It's going to lose 30% of its hard currency assets from Suez Canal transit fees as long as this is closed, he noted. Palestinian writer Mohammed El-Kurd's account missing on X. The news website Mondoweiss says that the X account of its culture editor, Mohammed El-Kurd, appears to have been censored. El-Kurd is a prominent Palestinian activist, poet and writer from the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood of occupied East Jerusalem. In 2021, with his twin sister Muna, El-Kurd made the Time Top 100 list as their family became known for resisting forced displacement. Al Jazeera has reached out to X to ask why El-Kurd's account, which was still down at the time of writing, is unavailable. Casualties reported in latest Israeli air attack on Khan Yunis. According to our Al Jazeera team on the ground, the attack hit a residential building in the Ma'an area, east of Khan Yunis, resulting in casualties. A video posted on Instagram and verified by Al Jazeera's fact-checking unit, Sanad, showed several injured children arriving at the Nasser Medical Complex, following the strike on the Sulla family house. We will bring you updates on the exact number of casualties as soon as we gather more information. Jesus in an incubator in Bethlehem. Palestinian artist Rana Bishara and sculptor Sanaa Farah Bishara have created an artwork showing a baby Jesus in an incubator in Bethlehem. The bronze statue is lying on a red and white keffiyeh inside an illuminated incubator outside the Church of Nativity in Bethlehem, in the occupied West Bank. You can read more about 2 of the premature babies born in Gaza here. Young men arrested in latest Israeli raid near Jenin. Israeli forces arrested at least 9 young men, after carrying out a new raid targeting the village of Al-Jalama, northeast of Jenin. According to the Palestinian news agency, Wafa, the Israeli forces also targeted the neighboring village of Arana, also in the occupied West Bank. Israeli forces also targeted separate raids in the following areas. City of Jenin, Al-Damj and Al-Hawashin neighborhoods of Jenin, Balata refugee camp, east of Nablus, Al-Tawan, an Alawite neighborhood in Nablus, Deir Ammar refugee camp, west of Ramallah, Kafan, north of Tulkarem. Israeli strikes prevent transport of injured from refugee camps, Health Ministry. Palestinian Health Ministry spokesman Ashraf al-Qudra said Israeli air attacks hit the main roads between refugee camps in central Gaza, preventing ambulances and civil defense crews from reaching injured people. A separate statement issued by the Palestinian Red Crescent Society also said that intensive Israeli air raids led to the closure of the main roads between the Al-Maghazi, Al-Buraj and Nuseirat refugee camps. Earlier, we reported that at least 70 people have been killed in an Israeli air attack on the Al-Maghazi refugee camp. Intense air attacks have also been reported in southern Gaza's Khan Yunis, but the number of casualties could not be immediately determined. Our hearts are in Bethlehem, Pope. Pope Francis has shared a post on X, decrying the futile logic of war on the eve of Christmas. Tonight, our hearts are in Bethlehem, where the Prince of Peace is once more rejected, the Pope said. You can read more about what the Pope said earlier at an evening Mass at St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican here. Israel's attack on Al-Maghazi flattened residential buildings in safe area. Several homes in the Al-Maghazi refugee camp have been completely flattened in one of the most densely populated areas of the middle regions of Gaza. About 70 Palestinians have been reported killed. Israel, during the last couple of days, and earlier today had adopted a very systematic approach, intensifying its raids in Al-Maghazi in other areas, to force people to flee to the south of the Gaza Strip, which has already been overwhelmed with evacuees. Al-Maghazi is very densely populated, including with evacuees who had received evacuation orders to move from Gaza Wadi and other refugee camps during the initial days of the war. And now, the Israeli operations are moving to the areas that are supposed to be safe. Red Crescent rescues injured from Al-Maghazi camp. At least 8 injured Palestinians have been rescued from the rubble of the Al-Maghazi camp, following an intense Israeli air attack that killed more than 70 people, according to the Palestine Red Crescent Society, PRCS. In a statement posted on X, PRCS also said it helped recover the bodies of 5 of the 70 people killed. According to Gaza officials and witnesses, several people are feared to be still trapped under the rubble. Intense strikes reported in central, southern Gaza. We are getting reports of violent and intensive Israeli raids on the Al-Buraj refugee camp in the central Gaza Strip, shortly after the deadly strike on the Al-Maghazi refugee camp. Videos received by Al Jazeera and verified by its fact-checking unit, Sanad, show the magnitude of the heavy bombardment. We are also getting separate reports of casualties following an air attack on southern Gaza's Khan Yunis. My name is Kingsley. Please like, share and subscribe.